What's going on, everybody? Welcome to IndieQuest, a celebration of the indie and obscure. Everybody's favorite indie video game podcast. I know it's my favorite. My name is Josh. I'm here with my co-hosts, Blink and the Captain, Seth. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing pretty dang good. It is, as of recording this, it's a short work week for me. We're coming up on the Thanksgiving holiday. Plenty of extra time for gaming, both indie and non. And yeah, I mean, right now I got an Americano in my hand and 2 hunks in my ears. It's just good all around. Drachma, buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing well, and the fact that you mentioned Thanksgiving, I wanted to talk about something that I'm thankful for that is outside of the indie space, but I think that you guys and anybody listening will appreciate it because it happened today. So I showed my lovely co-hosts that I have some ceiling deficiency going on in the room that I record in my office. There's been a leak in my roof for a couple months, and I have been neglecting to take care of it. So I finally, after much pressure from my loving wife, called a roofer to have them come out and look at it. And he came out today. Got here at like 3 o'clock. And pulled in, and one of his rear duals, so, it's a big box truck, so there's 2 tires on each side. On the right side, one of them was flat. And I'm like, first of all, it's kind of weird anyway. I'm working, right? And this guy's here, and kind of the tail end of my workday, but still, I need to be working and stuff. And I go out, and I kind of greet him, and he's like, oh, I got a flat tire. And I'm like, yeah, that's a bummer, like that sucks, like yeah, whatever you need, like let's figure it out or whatever. So he's like, well, let's look at the roof. So we go up there and we look at the roof, and he kind of finds where it's probably leaking, goes further up. He's like, it's probably leaking in here too, because whoever did this part of the roof, they put the flashing outside, and so it's probably getting in here. So we'll do both those parts. He gives me an estimate, and it's a pretty good estimate in terms of the work that needs to be done. I'm like, I'm definitely not sad about it or anything. And he's like, I'll take a little bit off because I'm gonna sit in your driveway for a little bit while my dad or my wife brings the other truck out. I gotta switch the tires out and everything. I'm like, okay, no big deal. Go back inside, kind of working. He's sitting out there. I feel bad. I offer him something to drink. He's like, nope, don't worry about it, So I'm sitting in here. He comes back to my door about 45 minutes later, and he's like, do you mind if I just leave the truck in your driveway tonight, because the tow is going to cost $600? Oh. I'm like, dude, it's no big deal. Like I've been telling the whole time, I'm like, whatever you need, dude, it's okay. It's a decent sized driveway. Just, it's fine. Like we'll deal, He's like, thanks. I really appreciate it. I won't even charge you for the roof.
What?
And I was like, what?
Oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
So, I mean, that was how my day went so far, and it was pretty awesome. Usually I don't have a story like that to bring, and it's like that's pretty awesome, and I'm very thankful about that today. And I think it goes to show, it's kind of what my wife said. She's like, it's when you're a nice person and you just, you're just always willing to whatever, you're just very floaty attitude, and it's like anything, whatever goes, it's all good, and whatever you need. Things like that happen. So I don't know. That's my message. My intro message today.
Darn right.
Wow, that's a hard story to top. No, I mean, that's pretty incredible, because I mean, you work for a company that does route work, and I do a company that does route work. So we understand, like, if our truck breaks down, that's like bad news. Mm-hmm. Like something's gonna happen. So you're just like, dude, chill, I'm good. And he's just like, no, well. Yeah, like, that's awesome. People paying it forward.
And it just makes you think, like, there are people out there who would be super salty about that situation. And it's like, who would ever want to be that guy? Like, is it that big? It's not that big of a deal.
We talk about this a lot in my house, where it's like, I can't even imagine being the type of person that could get worked up over something so small. I'm like, who could possibly be bothered by something like you see this dude at like legitimately being like, oh man, this is such a burden. We've all had flat tires, and you're just like, oh, it's so annoying. And you're gonna be like, well,
Yeah.
I mean that's my square foot. You can rent that square footage from me if you want.
I know.
Right?
I know. That's why I was like, oh, it's fine,
know.
dude.
It's like
not-
it's like not in your way, right? It's just like chilling there, like it's not bothering you. So what's
No,
the
he
problem?
even
Yeah,
moved it. Like it was in the middle of my driveway, and he even moved it off to the side because it's still one tire back there, and he just kind of. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, you don't even have to do that. My wife can park on the street for tonight. It's not that big of a deal. Like, and yeah, I mean, it's just be nice,
So,
right?
After
Yeah,
all
that's
that,
a good message.
did you wait for him to leave before you went out and pulled the spike strip off the frontage road by your house?
Got another one.
Master plan achieved. That's good stuff. Well, I'm happy for you, and I'm happy for your roof, and I'm happy for that guy. That's 3 winners in this situation right there.
For sure. Nice guy.
Good stuff. Well, I think one thing we did want to talk to before we go deep into our indie picks is not long ago we had an Indie World Showcase that we just wanted to briefly touch on and see what kind of sparkled and shined for everybody. If I was a really good, really diligent co-host, I would have looked up the date that Indie World was originally released, but it was, it was whatever the last one was. It was November-ish.
November 9th, I think.
November 9th. So I don't know how you guys want to do. If you want to just go around and pluck one each, I will start us out though, and it's one that I bet a lot of people here are excited for. But they kicked off the show with a game that is not new, but we saw, I think, a little bit more of it than we had previously. They did a pretty good dive into Sports Story, which is the follow-up to Golf Story. And anyone that has played Golf Story knows that was like a very loving throwback to like Mario Golf, especially Mario Golf on like the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, which those games own so hard. They are so good. It is an underserved, I think, like retro reminder market there. And so I'm excited to see what Sports Story does because it's covering a lot more than just golf. And I don't have much experience with other sports games, like old 2D handheld sports games beyond golf games. So this will be like a good blend of what I know they're good at with some new stuff that I haven't seen before. Like they got BMX biking in this. Sign me up.
Yeah, Golf Story, but Sports Story was also on my list. So thank you, Steve, for stealing that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Golf Story was excellent, and just I had heard about it, but it still exceeded my expectations when I played it. So yeah, I'm excited for that one. One that kind of drew my attention, which I'm wondering if Josh will also enjoy this one because it seems like a Josh game, was Pepper Grinder.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of like a newish looking. It's almost like a spin on what I think of what Drill Dozer was doing a little bit on the GBA, but it's also kind of got some SteamWorld Dig in there. But it's like you have a drill, your character has a drill out in front, and they are drilling through the world and platforming kind of in certain situations, but then also can like speed through the soft dirt sections with the drill and collect stuff. So it's kind of like a collect-a-thon platformer that has the drill aspect, which is really cool. I thought it looked really nice, and the art design is awesome. So
yeah, it's got that. First off, it's a Devolver published game, if I'm recalling.
yes,
And it's got that very like high def pixel art style that I've kind of come to associate with Devolver, but is just common in a lot of like prestige indie games these days. Like Owlboy is another example where it's like it's pixel art, but it's so detailed that it almost isn't pixel art. It does look really cool. It reminded me a lot of I can't remember if either of you have played it before, but there's a mechanic very similar to this in the second Ori game, Will o' the Wisps, where you do like tunneling through like rock and dirt and stuff. And I was like, my head was doing the timeline. I was like, okay, they must have played Ori, loved that section, and they're like, all right, time to start making a game that fleshes that concept out. So I'm pumped.
Yeah, and it's just like oozing with style and tude. So definitely is up my alley just from that angle. Just like I love the graphics just pop when you watch some gameplay of this. This looks awesome. So, well, one that I'm excited for is called Blanc or Blank.
Yeah.
Is it Blanc? Yes, this one was actually probably we may have talked about it before, but it must have been on another Indie World game thing or something. I've seen gameplay of this before. My partner even asked us like, "What's that one game where it's like black and white, like with like the two animals?" And then we figured out it was Blanc. But yeah, so basically it's like a co-op adventure where there are two animals in kind of like a hand-drawn, like almost like I guess like you could call it like charcoal painting looking environments or something like that. Maybe like sketching and charcoal, like mixed media kind of looking, and basically the little animal has like one move, and then the deer has one move. Like the deer can push boxes and jump, I think. It's like basically each character has two different things that work together to complete puzzles in the environment. So it looks really cute. Great music. It just has a really nice presentation. Looking forward to playing through that when it comes out. I think it comes out Valentine's Day, so be a nice little couple thing to do.
Yeah, very striking
that's
game.
perfect.
I feel like there's been like other games with similar vibes in terms of like story and stuff, but it is definitely very striking and original in terms of its presentation. I'm a little worried they're going to Fox and the Hound me. Anytime I see a game with two animals, I'm like, all right, what are you gonna do with these two? But it does look really good, and I do want to play it.
Yeah. I honestly think it's a pretty solid indie world. If you guys haven't checked it out,
yeah.
I feel like almost every game on here is something that I could potentially have fun with. Like I didn't see one where I was like, "Oh, this is lame." They all looked pretty cool. Like Have a Nice Death, I like saw that. I thought Seth was going to mention that one because it's kind of like a roguelike, you know.
I put it on my list, but Have a Nice Death has been out, so it's like
yeah,
because it's coming to Switch.
Yep. Right. So. Has it been out out, or is it like early access? They've been working on it, that one.
I think it's been on Steam for a while. Not like a crazy. It released this year, but it's been on Steam for a bit. But I'll double check.
Okay.
Definitely.
But yeah, all in all, these are always a pretty cool events. This one just kind of came out of nowhere for me. I didn't even know they had one coming, and then it's like, oh, nice little 30-minute indie highlight thing to throw on my list. So
yeah.
Have a Nice Death initial release was March 8th. So
okay,
came out this year. Oh dang, I gotta add that to my list of things to potentially try to play by the end of the year. It looks so cool.
That's just really cool, like awesome style, like hand drawn looking almost.
Great.
Yeah, like it's really incredible. So I was like, so many cool games. So Little to the Left looks good too. I gotta play that. Like that looks like unpacking, but with a cat messing with you or something. But yeah. Anyway, well, I know we always do the thing. We each bring an indie game to talk about, and I usually call on people, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and go first today, if that's okay with you guys.
I don't think I could stop you because you could just edit yours in first. So
that's true. Facts. So I brought a game. I've been kind of teasing it to you guys in the chat. Like it's an older game. This is like a classic indie game. This is like one of those indie games that you go to and be like, oh yeah, this is from like back in the day, and it's from 2010. I'm gonna let Steve have a couple of guesses if you want to throw a guess in there. Seth, you can too.
2010.
I'm gonna Google.
Yeah,
I'd be shocked if you were just casually bringing Super Meat Boy.
No, it's not Super Meat Boy.
All right. Well, that's my first guess. I'll let the captain have at least one shot before I go back in with another one.
I guess Limbo.
No.
Okay.
That's a good solid one though. That's a great game though.
Okay. Dang, we already did Amnesia. StarCraft 2: Wings of Liberty.
That seemed like a game I'm gonna play.
You should.
And it's also not a indie game.
Yeah, I know. All right. The game is VVV.
Oh, that
VVV.
game slaps.
Yeah, that's a slapping, amazing freaking game. The developer actually calls us, so we don't say VVV like a million times. The developer, like when he talks about it, he says V. He just says this is V. So it's 5 Vs. If you're looking at the title, it's literally just 5 Vs. Or is it 6 Vs? Or my dyslexia is getting to me. I think it's 6 Vs, right? Yeah. So it's 2010. Terry Kavanagh is a really popular indie developer. He's made a few other things like Dicey Dungeon and what's it? Super Hexagon. I think those are like maybe his main three, including this one. And pretty much it's a very simple art style. Pretty much like imagine you're looking at Star Wars on the screen and someone's playing a game on it and it's like Atari or something. Like I don't know, like it's like Atari but not. Like very 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 simple artwork in this game. And the main mechanic is you're this little dude who has to platform, but instead of jumping, you change the gravitational pull up or down in the environment, and you basically make your way from point A to point B, going through different challenges using this platforming mechanic. And they always mix it up, and it's just like a super solid and well crafted platformer.
Yeah, they do a lot of creative stuff. It's room based, so
yeah,
the rooms can be different sizes. But usually it's kind of like the goal is you walk in and you're trying to get to wherever the exit in that room is. It might be on the other side. It might be on the ceiling. It might be whatever. And sometimes it scrolls. Sometimes it doesn't. And they add in all sorts, different weird extra mechanics and stuff as you go along. Well, not a ton of them, but, they add in
a few
things like these like special pixel lines that automatically bounce you back in the other direction. So you can't control when you switch. And I don't know. I feel like it's just like the essence of an indie game boiled down to its purest form. If you boil all the fat off, you're left with just the meat. That's what VVVVV is.
So the mechanic is kind of like Wendy Every Which Way or Metal Storm, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a Wendy Every Which Way like. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I can appreciate those.
Yeah, and then like Steve was saying, basically there are different challenges in each room. Like you're trying to basically save the people, like your fellow crewmen on this ship, and they're like, so say there's a guy and he's like he only basically walks when you're on the ground. So basically you have to get him across by like timing how he's walking as you're doing the puzzles. So they add little elements like that in. And actually was playing this. The reason I brought the game is I was playing it on my phone, which I know that sounds like it sounds bad, but this game actually works pretty good with a touchscreen because it's literally just left and right and then one button to change the gravitational pull, and you basically just kind of go from there. Once you get the feel on the touch controls, it's not bad at all. And so I was just playing this. It's kind of like just kind of get a nostalgic trip on lunch breaks and stuff. So it's a pretty good game.
It's super easy pick up and play. It's a game that I don't replay a lot of games, but I have gone back and visited this one a lot because it's like immediate. You just are instantly in the action. Like there's like 30 seconds of story and then boom, you're out in the world. So even though it is level based in terms of like you progress from room to room to room, getting checkpoints, usually one per room. The whole world is interconnected. It's not like a Metroidvania, but it has a Metroidvania feeling map where everything is open to you right from the outset, and you can go in any direction that you want and basically explore whatever spokes you want to. Nothing is gated behind like skills or anything. You don't unlock new abilities or anything like that. But yeah, it's just so easy to pick up and play and pop in, and it is also for me very nostalgic and really weird to think that it's 12 years old.
Yeah, and like I think that it's a game that on its outset, like when you start playing it, wow, this is hard. But the checkpointing is super fair. Like I'd say this is one of the best checkpointing. It feels like you're like hitting a checkpoint on a logical spot each time. It's like it's very thoughtful where they put the checkpoints. So say you have a couple of hard jumps on one of the screens and you're like, and then it's like, okay, it took a little while to get there. You're just retrying that same screen over and over again till you get it. And then you get it and you're like, okay, yeah, this is pretty fun. And it's just like a nice little dopamine hit each time you solve these little platforming puzzles, just like any good platformer does. So, and also the music is just like, it's banging. It's like one of the best indie game OSTs of all time, in my opinion. Like, it's just so good. Like, we've brought music from OST episodes before because this game is just really good. Like, the music, like, yeah, it's like classic indie music right there.
Yeah, pushing onwards, which is like the The music that plays as you're like out exploring, sort of the main hub, is one of my all-time favorite chiptune tracks ever. Also, fun fact about the soundtrack: the game's VVVVVV because everyone on your crew has a name that starts with V, so it's like Vermilion, Viridian, etc. The soundtrack is PPPPPP, and every name of every song starts with the letter P, like Pushing Onwards and Pressurized and stuff like that.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
I think Steve likes this game. He knows a lot of random trivia about it.
Never played it. Never heard of it.
But yeah, this is actually like just a passion project for Terry Kavanaugh. He just built it in Flash and was just messing around, making had a simple concept, and basically this game I think got big because of the Humble Indie Bundle, like the first within the first 5 Humble Indie Bundles, which one it was on. I feel like that's where it really popped off. Like everybody started talking about this one. So, but yeah, I mean it's classic. Like it's hard for me to any questions, guys, before I obviously put it where it deserves to be on the quest log.
The question I had, I guess the comparison I can make, you were talking about the checkpointing and how it's very fair. My thought, and I know a game that you also really enjoy, Josh, is Celeste. Yeah. And I always felt like that had really good checkpointing. Is it kind of like that? Because I've never played this game.
Yeah, it's very similar. Like you can see what your challenge is. You do it until you get it, and if you die, you just start at the same room. Just do it again, over and over again, and it's like that type of platformer, I guess, splatformer, if you will. To harken back to that comment from like the first episode of IndieQuest. But anyway, this is a main quest game. Like this is almost a gimme main quest game, but honestly, I feel like it's one of those. It's always there. Like I could feel like I could pick this game up and always have like a 30-second blast of fun or a couple hour blast of fun and play through the whole thing because it's a fairly short game. So yeah, good time. Check out VVV. Yep, there you go. 6 V's. I always have trouble pronouncing it, but yeah, great little title. It was bound to come to the quest log eventually, so I was the one to bring it.
Heck yeah. So apparently the new IndieQuest meta is between Fez and VVVVVV is to just dangle big juicy steaks out in front of me, get me slobbering, and get me amped up to talk about a game that you guys brought. That seems unfair. That seems like putting undue burden on me, but that's okay.
All right. Well, my game has been brought. Who wants to go next? Anybody having a hankering to talk about their game, like right now?
How you feeling, Seth? Do you want that finale punch, or you want to go now?
I'll go now.
All right.
Why not?
Okay.
Why not? I think this is the exact order we went in last time.
Oh.
I was the sandwich. I like being the meat in between my bunny friends. So. All right. So for the first time in maybe ever, both of my co-hosts actually know the game I brought because, and I want to lay out a little disclaimer. I am a little sick, a little under the weather. I'm trying not to be a big baby about it, so I came on IndieQuest today. But if I do cough, that's why. Don't make fun of me. But you are allowed to make fun of me if you send an email. So,
that's true.
Yeah. All right. So today I am bringing a game that is very unique. A game that I don't think I've ever played anything like it. Especially in the way its main mechanic, I would say. It's not even its main mechanic, but the big draw, I would say, of this game. And that is One Shot. So, I know that both of you know of it now. Have you, I know, Steve, you said that you've seen it in some sales and stuff. What else do you guys know about this game?
Surprisingly little, even though I'm like intimately familiar with the like store page banner. I know that it has a big glowing like orb or something on the front of it, and it's got a big flowy scarf character, and then it looks like, but I can't confirm, it's like some sort of pixel platformer. I'm not sure.
Josh, anything else to elaborate on?
No, I mean, I actually have seen the logo in passing, like in a list of Steam games, but I've never like looked into it even a little bit until right now, so I'm excited to find out all about this game.
Awesome. So apparently this game was like critically acclaimed. I knew nothing of it before this, like, which is sort of surprising because of the amount of like Steam reviews it has gotten and stuff. But I think it's because up until a month ago, which I'm going to get into this right now, it was only ever on PC. And the main mechanic makes me wonder how they do it on Switch, PS4, and Xbox One, which are the other platforms it's on now. But it really works well on PC, which I'll get into here in a moment. But it actually, the full release was in 2016, so it's a few years old now. In 2014, it was in like a Flash version, I think, where you could like play the game all the way through, which is why it was called One Shot. And if you didn't do that, then things would go awry or something. That game and the game that actually came out are, from what I can tell, different enough to make them different experiences from the little bit of research I've done. So I don't even know if you can play that version of the game anymore. I know you can play the version I played on PC, and like I said, it's on those other systems too. It was developed by FutureCat, and that will lead us right into the overview of the game. Like Steve said, it is like a 16-bit game, but it is not a platformer. It's a adventure game with puzzle elements. So think, and I did a little research prior to talking about it. One of their inspirations was The Legend of Zelda, specifically Link's Awakening.
Ooh.
But there is no combat. No combat.
Oh.
It just looks like that's how you get around the world, right? So imagine you're walking around as Link without combat and all the other adventure game stuff. So the way it looks to me, my immediate comparison is it has very GBA style graphics. Very dark, 16-bit still, so it's like that handheld SNES. But you know how you can look and you can tell something is a Super Nintendo game, but you can also tell something is a GBA game because of how blown up it is, you know, when you actually play it on a bigger screen. That's what I really think One Shot looks like, which is why I draw that comparison to a GBA game, even though it's on PC. And I will get into it now. The reason that is because they want you to play this game windowed.
Oh.
Which is very weird.
Interesting.
Yes.
Huh.
I did not play it that way, but there is a very special reason they want you to play it like that. And it's because the game itself will interact with your PC as you play.
Really?
It will pull you out of the game and give you like an error message, like the boom tone, right? When something goes wrong.
Wow.
Pop up on the screen and it will give you a message, and it's usually like a intimidating message from this overlord character type thing in the game telling you don't do this, do that, and then you have to press OK, right, in the error box. So that is like the big mechanic, big difference in One Shot compared to everything else I've ever played, which is why I say I don't know how well it works on Switch or PS4, because if I was playing it on those systems, so much of that stuff would be like, okay, if I have an error on my PS4, I have a problem, right? But we have errors all the time on our PC.
Yep.
Like that happens like crazy, right? We always hear that tone that says like, oh, this is a thing. It's, oh, I must have forgot to shut that ad blocker down for the weather report thing, right? Or something like that. But I don't know how they did it on Switch or so. I'm honestly very interested to either hear of somebody playing it on those systems or check it out myself, because I honestly wouldn't mind doing it.
Did you play? You said you played full screen?
I did, just because. So I have two monitors. Well, I have my laptop screen and I have a bigger monitor, which is like a 24-inch monitor behind. And when I played it windowed, there's no way to like expand the window. It only has a very small, probably not even a quarter of the screen big. And it's like, I felt like I was hunched over trying to play it. I know that's how they wanted me to play, but I was like, this isn't, I want to be able to see. I want to be able to sit back in my computer chair. I don't want to have to lean in for the next 5 hours staring at the screen. So I didn't play it that way. The thing is that they tell you to play it that way, but when the stuff you have to interact with your PC, when it makes you do that, it will instantly window the game.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it interacts, like it's not like pinging and you're like, oh, I got to go to my settings and I got to put it back in window and then go find whatever it told me to do, right? It does it automatically and then it gives you the stuff you need to do. It either gives you the error message or in a lot of ways there's a puzzle that you have to solve. So before we get into that, I'm going to get into that more deeply here in a moment. The gameplay before any of that fourth wall breaking stuff happens. You play as a god. You're a god, basically. And you are guiding Nico, who is the character that you guys have seen. Looks like a little cat kid, right? You're helping Nico. Nico gets placed in this world, this dark, dreary world, as a messiah. So your god, Nico is Jesus.
Okay.
Basically.
Sure.
It's very interesting. You find out very early on that the world has gone dark and everything is starting to fade away because the sun disappeared. Basically, there is no more sun for this world. You don't even know why necessarily Nico is the chosen one, but like all these NPCs, and there are a lot of like high-tech robot NPCs in this world. It was a very technically advanced culture before the sun went away and everything started to die. Everything was like programmed, or so much of the stuff in the world was programmed to say, oh, the Messiah's here. We know who the Messiah is. You're here to save us. And there's this like awesome banter that you go back and forth with on Nico. Like Nico will interact with something, then she'll, or he'll, they don't tell you, or they don't tell you the gender at all. I just, that in my head, Nico was feminine. So that's what I immediately thought instantly. But I've seen on the internet plenty of people say he and they and whatever. So I think that's, you're supposed to interpret it the way you want to. And that's kind of the part of the point. But Nico will actually turn to you. There's nowhere that you put your name in. The game reads your PC, so the entire time Nico was calling me Seth.
Oh, nice.
Like knew what my name was.
That's cool.
Because of all that, all that stuff in my data, which was kind of creepy. I'm like, I didn't say anything, and just knew. So that's basically everything. You find items as you're moving through the world. And with those items, it reminded me a lot of like Machinarium or point-and-click games like that, where you can find so many items and combine them to make different items to be able to fit into different puzzles and stuff like that. From the very beginning, it's not a spoiler, Nico starts carrying around what Steve referred to as a glowy ball thing. It is a giant light bulb, basically. It's what everybody in the world calls the sun.
Okay.
And the whole point is for you, God, to guide Nico, the Messiah, to a tower in the middle of this world to put the bulb back in and light the world again so that everybody can be saved. That's what you do. And outside of that, those exact examples, I don't want to go into too much more story stuff because it would spoil. So it's a game that should be experienced.
That makes sense. I mean, even the few things that you've mentioned are very intriguing to me. What's the balance between like exploration and puzzle solving? Is it kind of, I don't want to say a walking sim, but like, is it more like that where it's light puzzle solving and mostly just vibing in the world, or is it like, are you sitting there scratching your head trying to solve a puzzle in a room for 10 minutes before you can move on?
I would say the puzzles are very solvable. I think that either of my 11-year-olds could figure them out fairly easily. So it's not a tough puzzle game for sure. And you say the walking sim part, there was actually a time where I was like, you're walking through this world and it looks so much like a 16-bit RPG. It was made in RPG Maker.
That makes sense.
So that's why.
Yeah.
But when you're walking from one side of the world to the other for a long period of time, because you have to get from one part to another, you start to realize as you're walking and it takes 60 seconds or whatever to get there, it's like, this is why in RPGs there are random battles. Because when all you're doing is walking and walking and walking and walking, it's like, oh, Why wouldn't they have just put the place I need to get to closer? It just seems like unnecessary padding. And that's it. At the end of the day, there is a fast travel that you can use, but you can't use it the first time you get anywhere, right? So you kind of have to walk around. And especially in the first area, which is called the Barrens, everything is really far apart. So it really seemed like you were walking a lot initially, but which this is a really good thing. I wish it drew me in a little bit more from the get-go, but the game constantly gets better as you learn more about its mechanics, the fast travel system, and the world kind of seems to shrink down and there's more to do in it as you go on, which is weird because I was dedicated to play this game for a review, but I'm not sure I would have stuck with it for the first 20 minutes or so had I not known it was a good game going in, or at least a very playable game. A lot of people like it, and I wasn't bringing it to IndieQuest because it doesn't grab you initially.
Okay.
You have to kind of play it for a little bit to get into it. So
That's fair, I think.
I want to, yep. You guys have any other? I wanted to mention the mechanic really quick. You guys have any other questions before I move on?
No, I'm curious to learn more about how it works.
So I will give you a small example of what will happen with this fourth wall breaking thing. You're playing through the game and you come upon a puzzle that has, or you haven't even gotten there, gotten to the puzzle yet, right? But the game pulls you out of it, gives you an error, and says you need to use something on the screen to solve the next puzzle. And there is a point where the game itself changes whatever your background is.
Oh, fun.
On your computer.
That's amazing.
And gives you the solution to the puzzle on the back of it. But your window kind of covers it, depending on where you had it. So it's like you don't really know what's going on. You see your background's changed. You have to actually move your window off of what the puzzle solution is.
I love that stuff. I'm such a mark for that type of thing. It's like...
I know.
You're getting me all amped up.
Both of you guys would love that.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you would both love this, which is why I felt bad once I started playing it. I'm like, this game would be a game we should all talk about someday, and I really want to. That's why I'm not trying to drag on about it, because I would love if you guys would play this and we could all talk about it.
Yeah, it's like the Undertale. Undertale is the one I think, oh yeah, this stuff like that. I know Inscription does something like that. I don't know what it is. I haven't looked into it. But yeah, that whole fourth wall thing is so fascinating to me. So, and you know that. So yeah, definitely. It's instant wish list for me on this one.
I already wish listed it while we were talking.
Yeah.
There is like a monotonous PC that seems like the enemy, but you're not entirely sure as you're playing through. But that sometimes will give you hints as well, and they're very vague to the point where I was thinking like, oh man, both Steve and Josh would love to get this kind of a hint, because you already at this point knew that your PC, that there are things hiding places, and it really makes you go play hide and seek through all your PC windows that you can try to find this stuff to solve these puzzles in the game. So you're kind of going back and forth to try to figure it out, and it's excellent. It's unlike anything I have ever played personally, where it pulls you out, brings you back in. And you really feel like God, because there is a world in your computer and there's things being manipulated outside of that world, like the greater universe, right? And the game is the world and you're out here and you can manipulate everything around it, which is kind of what we think of God's doing, right? So very interesting in that way.
Ridiculously cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Music, I think personally is a high point. I know I did this reference last time, but imagine Minecraft nighttime all the time. That is what it makes me think of, because it's dark. This world is basically always dark. So it's very somber and smooth and just the perfect. I actually did it one day when I was working. The perfect put the soundtrack on and work or study. It's just very calming and relaxing. Perfect, just put your feet up and chill type music. Have the fireplace on, something like that, right? It's really good. So that will lead me into my verdict. Do you guys have any more questions before I get into it?
How long is it?
5 hours.
Oh.
4 to 5 hours.
That's the perfect length right there. I'm honestly,
Yes.
this is not the measure of a game's quality by any stretch, but I am surprised at you. And you mentioned at the top how popular this game is. Looking at Steam, this game has almost 30,000 reviews, and it's overwhelmingly
Yeah,
positive.
it's crazy.
98%.
Like that is
It's nuts.
massively popular. This game has like been hiding in plain sight or something. Very cool.
Yeah, I haven't even heard of this on a like I listen to a decent amount of gaming podcasts that play indie games, and I haven't heard of this game. Like that's surprising to me. I usually hear like, you know, people like, "Oh, have you heard of this game Vampire Survivors?" or "Hey, have you heard of this one?" You know, and you start kind of hearing the small games come out, but I haven't heard of this one.
Yep.
So when you said, "Oh, you guys probably have heard of it," I was like, "Oh yeah, was he bringing Limbo?" But no, it's something I never heard of. So that's crazy.
I mean, I stumbled upon this. I'll be honest. It came out in 2016. The full release came out in 2016. I needed a 2016 game again for
Do
Polykill.
it.
And I looked at 2016 indie games, and there are a few. I think Gungeon came out in 2016, so it's like, well, I can't use that. I've first of all beaten that like 100 million times, I feel like. And I beat that last year anyway, right? So there's like the top 5 popular games, indie games, and then One Shot was kind of hiding in there, and I'm like, that's a cool looking cover art. Why have I never seen that game? And then as you go digging, it's like, this is super popular. So, but yeah,
I mean,
it's a main quest game.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, main quest. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
No, 2016 had Inside, The Witness, Firewatch. I mean, come on. There's some good stuff there. Super hot.
Oh yeah, there is. I just
Yeah.
some of that stuff's like that's the kind of stuff we're going to talk about someday as a group,
Right,
or
true. Yeah.
one of you guys might bring it because you have more of a nostalgia for it, right? That's why I almost felt bad last week about Fez, and that's why One Shot I was like, I haven't heard about it a lot, but I bet they both have.
Oh, it's a banger pick. You killed it.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to try this game out.
Yeah, no kidding. Got me all worked up.
Yes,
Good stuff.
So closing thoughts: Main Quest, very good game. I don't want to talk any more than I have to about it because it is. I know we talk about the Main Quest games being a game that anyone could go out there and enjoy, and you go out there and pick it up and you're going to have a good time. This is a game that should be experienced by anyone who plays games, I think, and has an affinity. I am very interested in how the console ports are, so I hope one of you, if you play it soon, will play it on console so I know how it works. And I really hope you guys do talk or play it because I want to talk to everyone I know about this game.
Okay.
But I think it works really well on PC, so if anybody has an affinity towards PC or enjoys tinkering on the PC, this is a good game for those type of people as well, right? But it really reminds me a lot of Bear's Restaurant, which I played this year. It's that kind of game, right? That adventure, high emotion, really good storytelling, kind of to the moonish, which is why I know both of you would also enjoy it. So that is One Shot, a Main Quest.
Heck,
Awesome.
yeah, man. 2 bangers. You're setting me up for quite the finale here. Are we gonna bring? Are they all gonna bring Main Quest games on this unassuming day in November? Bum bum bum. All right, I'm bringing a game that I feel fairly confident neither of you have played, but maybe you have. I don't know. I'm not your dad. A game called Gravity Ghost. Any played Gravity Ghost? Do we have any Gravity Ghost fans in the chat, in the crowd?
I like the alliteration. I like the alliteration.
Yeah?
Gravity Ghost.
All right, so Gravity
No, I haven't
Ghost
played it.
is a 2D puzzle game. I'd call it a physics puzzle game because it's very much focused around physics and movement. Developed by Ivy Games, which is a very small studio. I think it's largely one woman, but obviously all games require more than one person to build, so there's a bunch of people involved and contributing. But it came out in 2015, and then a deluxe version, which I think maybe also lined up with the console version of the game, released in 2019. So it's out on PC, Mac, Linux, and then I think that deluxe version's on all of those plus PS4 is where you can find it. So it is, at its core, it is a physics puzzler focused around like manipulating the orbits of your character around stellar objects, but at the same time is very small and contained and level based. So it's not, you say like when you're manipulating your orbit around a planet or something, you start to think of, Outer Wilds and all sorts of ridiculous like large scale things. No, this is like very much like a single screen platformer level, but all you're doing is navigating around and using the gravity of the various planets and things in your environment to progress. Your goal in every level is literally to just collect a star and then get to the door at the end of the level. And some of these levels can like if you like spot the right line or hit it just right, like they can literally be 1 second or 2 seconds long. Like they do not take long at all. In fact, there's a trophy for speedrunning the entire game in 50 minutes. My playthrough was much longer than that, and that would involve you skipping a lot of the optional levels, but it can be done very quickly. Some of these can be done very quickly. And so if you think of like the best point of comparison I can make, it'll make way more sense if you just look up a video, but just for the folks that are like stuck in their car in traffic right now, can't look up a video on their phone because they're not naughty people and they're not looking at their phone. Imagine like when you're on like the small planets in like Mario Galaxy.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
and then just do that in 2D basically. And that's what you end up with.
I was going to say 2D Mario Galaxy, and then I thought to myself, well, that's kind of just 2D Mario, so that's not the planet part. I'm watching a video of it, and it's really cool because they didn't actually have to use planets. Like they could have used shapes, or they didn't have to make it as detailed as it is, but the planet thing and making that part of the aesthetic makes so much sense. It's like, wow, it's so simple on the surface, but like that's perfect. They didn't have to do that, but it's perfect for this type of game.
Yeah, very much so. And this, the setting could be abstract. I mean, we'll talk story. We'll talk a very limited story in a little bit because you really can't say much without giving essentially the entire story away. But space is relevant to the story in the end, even though it is a pretty grounded story in a pretty interesting way. But the goal of every level, like I said, is you're just trying to collect one star that will let you finish that level. Usually, especially at the beginning, that star is just out in the open, and it's just a matter of like, how do I jump off of this planet and slingshot around that moon to get the star and land at the door. And then they start adding in some extra mechanics on top of that. So you'll find like there are these like sort of like void holes that whenever you're not on the ground, whenever you're not touching like a comet or an asteroid or a planet, they'll start to fill up. And when they fill all the way up, then the star will reveal itself. And so in those instances, the levels are about finding ways to like slingshot and manipulate yourself around without accidentally landing on something, as opposed to what you've been doing the entire time. They add in some mechanics that are like sort of timing based, where you can like kind of rev up this wheel to make this light expose and show you things that you couldn't normally, collectibles that weren't normally visible on the level. And then you can have a limited time before that like spinning wheel kind of slows to a stop to go collect those things. And then on top of that, the different planets that you're manipulating around have different aspects to them that are very relevant to the movement. One, their size impacts their gravity, obviously. Like bigger ones have a much stronger gravitational pull. But there are different types of planets that you'll end up engaging with. So like there is, there's like an ice planet that's slippery. There are water planets that you can go through. And so you can like kind of get caught in the middle, or if you slingshot fast enough, you can shoot all the way through them. There's what they call air planets, but it's basically just Jupiter. And those act like basically trampolines and bounce you away. Fire planets, instead of having a gravity that pulls you in, it has gravity that pushes you out, like two positively charged magnets next to each other.
Oh, nice.
All sorts of stuff like that. And then you gain the ability to, as you play through, terraform any one of those planets using this kind of like currency that you're collecting as you go through the levels. And you can terraform a planet into any of those other types. So if you're like, you know what, I think this would be easier if I just turn this into a fire planet, so I have like the charge to slingshot me way up to the top of the screen, I'll just do that. Which means that you end up having a lot of options to like explore and tackle these levels in very different ways. And then the last thing mechanically that's relevant is you also end up unlocking special abilities for your character too. So you'll get like a double jump, you'll get a dash in a certain direction, you'll get the ability to basically do like a beat down in Smash Bros. Kirby where you just turn into a rock and drop straight down to wherever whatever the closest planet is. Stuff like that. So you have a pretty, for a game that is simple in concept and obviously not designed to be too in-depth, you do have a pretty good amount of variety and a pretty decent number of options to explore and do things. But yeah, as you guys are looking at footage and pictures, what questions come to mind, if any?
I was just asking, how does it like control? Like, does it control well? Because I can see a game like this with this concept making you feel like you're not in control sometimes during the orbits and things. So do you feel like it's tight, like you're pretty in control throughout the game?
I'm going to say kind of. You don't always feel in control, and it does sometimes feel... Sometimes to me it felt like the physics were not doing the thing I anticipated them to do, and it wasn't clear to me in those moments, am I not doing the math in my head right to what should be happening, or is the game like propelling me in a way that it shouldn't be? I would say usually it works pretty well. Sometimes it can kind of feel like when you're out in space in Outer Wilds and you're like shooting around with your jetpack in that kind of like weird floaty
and you're
way.
Like, just like, I cannot get over this little lip. I'm trying for 30 minutes. Yeah.
But then sometimes, at its most stubborn, I would say, it feels almost like directional influence in a Smash Brothers game, where when you're being launched off stage and you can like barely adjust your angle just a tiny bit, but you're mostly headed in that one direction. It's kind of like that, where sometimes I was definitely like just cranking the stick in the direction I wanted to go, and I was like, Jesus, take the wheel, buddy. Let's get up there, come hell or high water. I don't know what I'm doing, but let's hope it works. But I mean, all the levels are so tiny. Like, there's not a level in the game that is like would take more than a few seconds to get across. So it's always just like, you miss your jump, you just land, you try again, you do it a different way. And some of the levels are too complex for you to ever like reasonably like find the perfect line. Sometimes you are just sort of like diving into the chaos of all these competing gravity pulls and just sort of like trying to move your character in certain ways and manipulate to land where you ultimately want to go. So yeah, works out pretty well. The sort of like large, so individually the objective for each level is to collect those stars. There's about 100 levels in the game. Your larger objective is you have kind of like an optional path on how to explore certain levels. Like you go into these different sections that map to constellations of different animals, and most of them have like 2 alternate paths that you can choose to go on. So if you do get stuck on one level, you could in theory go down the other path. None of them are that hard. I ended up beating every level in the game, even the ones that I didn't theoretically need to do, because, well, 1, because there was a trophy to do that, but 2, because it really didn't take any time. Really didn't take any additional time.
Do you know who you're talking to?
I mean, there's a gold trophy, son, all right? I think I'm just going to turn that down. So it really is not too bad. But your goal ultimately is to get to these animal spirits that sort of like inhabit their personal constellations and collect, they're basically 7 MacGuffins. They're like 7 pieces of society essentially that you'll then carry around and carry back to this black hole in the center of the world and do story things that are none of your business. But the parts of the story I can speak to, they're pretty, I would say they're pretty well done. They're very light touch. In fact, almost all the story in the game is optional. In some levels, there will be a spirit of an animal moving around, And it's fun. The animal spirits always move in the opposite direction of where you're moving, so you need to like kind of like mirror mode manipulate them to end up crossing paths with you at some point so you can collect them. And then you'll bring that spirit to a skeleton for that animal in a different level. And when you reunite the spirit with the skeleton, you'll get a story cutscene. And the story is you play as this character named Iona, who is part of a family that lives out on this island that tends to and guards a lighthouse. It's not really clear where in the world, but doesn't really matter. And, we'll just say that some unfortunate events befall this family, and that plays out over the course of the game and becomes story relevant. Not something you could really predict going in, but told well enough. It's got a real nice visual style, too. It's got this kind of like oil pastel, crayon, maybe kind of chalk look to it. Really, I love a game that's not afraid to throw some colors in your face, and this is a colorful game. Very bright, very pretty. So,
some of the detail that I've seen, the chalk thing I was thinking, what is the thing that this reminds me of? But chalk is really good. This type of game and the way you've described it, I don't think needs it. One more reason or one more thing that really shows that they went the extra mile. Because it wasn't necessary for the gameplay, but it is very pretty.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it is quite a looker. Very fun. And then last element there, the music. In fact, you may be interested to learn. You got this big dumb grin on your face.
I already looked.
He knows my trivia. The music done by one Ben Prunty, who you may know from such bangers as FTL or perhaps Into the Breach.
There we go. I honestly was like, I wonder if Steve remembers or if he did enough research where he knew that, because I was going to spring that on you if you didn't. So,
yes. So same composer and firing on all cylinders in this one too. Very good. I would say the music almost punches above the weight class of the rest of the game. It was like the very first thing I said and the very first thing Leah said on the couch next to me. I started playing it for a while when she wasn't in the room. And when she walked in, the first thing she's like, damn, music in this game's pretty good.
Yeah. I might just look up the OST after this just to hear.
Yeah.
Because I am a Ben Prunty enjoyer. So, yes.
Yeah, very good. It's a lot of different instruments and mixes in some like sounds of nature and stuff like that too. But some of the songs are very kind of like high energy, almost kind of upbeat, and then there's some stuff that's a lot more mellow, almost kind of eerie or mysterious sometimes. Like, I don't want to say ominous, that's making it sound scarier than it is, but it's definitely like a little bit of like, there's kind of like a minor key sort of eyebrow raising kind of vibe going on with this song. So definitely check it out. And I'm sure there are some parts of the soundtrack that are a little more understated and kind of background, but what are probably like the hits that you would put on an album that you would release are all very good. As we all kind of the IndieQuest meme at this point is, it's a type of music that you would not mind putting on while you're working. All right, you'd put this on while you're working.
Would you bring a banger from this game to an IQ OST?
100%. In fact, when I was playing it, I was like, do I not bring this game until the next OST just so I can drop a surprise bomb on everyone? But I'd rather just drop the game on you here now, and then I'll probably just bring one in our next OST. Spoilers. Now you know what's coming.
I enjoy doing that, actually, because I feel like we talk about the game in here, and then we can kind of give them a sample. So there's another little callback, So
very much so.
I like it.
Yeah, it's not too long. It only takes, I would say, I spent maybe 3 to 4 hours in it, and that was doing everything. That was, hunting down all of those optional animal spirits, beating every level. The deluxe version, one of the big things that the deluxe version added was a set of challenge levels, like 15, like particularly difficult levels. And some of those things are pretty dang tough. It is a noted difficulty increase compared to the main game for sure. A couple of those I almost thought, I was like, I might not be good enough to do this. Like, they really are expecting a lot of me. But with enough perseverance, you can overcome your struggles. But all that to say, any final questions, thoughts, concerns that I can help ease your mind on?
I am very interested to see and hear where you put this on the quest log, because I think regardless of where you put it, it is a testament. I know you're a trophy chaser, but that you spent that time to make sure you got that trophy tells me that you definitely enjoyed it, for sure, right?
Oh.
You're not going to be wasting your time out there.
Definitely. In fact, you know that a game is good when I go out of my way to do something like that. Like, yes, there was a trophy, but this game doesn't have a platinum, and I didn't get all the trophies. Because some of the trophies, you would have to play the game in kind of an unintuitive way that is at odds with what your first playthrough would be. And I didn't want to do that. And so it was not I'm only doing this for the trophy. It was more like I got through most of the game and then thought, like, you know, what can I still do in this cleanup, because my belly's not full yet. I could eat some more. Yeah. What can I fill it with before we're done? So
awesome.
All that to say,
That's good.
Gravity Ghost goes on the quest log. I would have brought it if I wasn't going to put it on the quest log. I'm a bold guy. I only bring things I'm putting on the quest log. It's kind of my thing. It's my shtick.
Yeah, it's your shtick. Yeah.
I think I am going to live up to my reputation here, though. I think we're going to side quest this SOB.
I kind of
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It does have those moments, like Josh sort of teased out of me. It does have those moments where the physics don't make sense or can be frustrating. Like to the point where sometimes I would be trying to move like to the right and there would be no planets around me, and my character would be like sharply moving left, and I'd be like, why? What is going on? I don't necessarily think that it was the game like being bugged, but I think that it was not communicating to me very well why this was happening. And again, these are all like micro scale frustrations, because again, you just land and do the jump again. You never lose more than like 10 seconds of your life. But in a game that hangs like kind of all of its hat on those physics things, when there is these like occasional breakdowns, it does over time start to wear you down just a little bit. And just in general, it was a great game, very fun. Really, I think, interesting. Not a lot of games that I've played like this that are physics-based in this way. And just, solid all around. I do think that it won't be for everyone, which is why I would put it on a side quest more than a main quest. Like, it doesn't hit a lot of the notes. Like, it doesn't hit a lot of story notes that people be looking for. Certain people are going to be more or less into this type of game. I would say if you have played Outer Wilds, how much you got frustrated driving the ship or jetpacking around in space is like a direct one-to-one analog for how much this game would frustrate you. If you didn't like the ship, you probably won't like Gravity Ghost. If you got used to the ship controls and learned to like them, you'll probably like Gravity Ghost quite a bit.
Yeah, I just heard like a bunch of people just turn off the podcast. Like, I'm good. No, I know actually a lot of people, like, that's one of their main complaints for that game is like, I hated driving the ship. So, yeah.
Yeah, very cool game, and I do recommend.
Awesome. So we had 2 main quests in VVV, and I already forgot the name. One Shot was the other one that Seth brought, and then trying to test my memory. My memory sucks. And then the one that we had that was a side quest was from Steve, Ghost Giant.
Gravity Ghost. Right. Ghost Giant is
Gravity
a different
Ghost.
Indie game.
Ghost Giant. That's a different game. You'd think I would have done that on purpose, but Gravity Ghost.
I was like, wait a minute. Is he making the joke? Have we brought Ghost Giant?
No, we haven't. That is actually a VR game. Okay. Well, one thing we do talk about on the show is that we're going to read emails, which I'm throwing this at you guys because I forgot we had an email. When do you think this email came in, though? Like, how long ago?
Boy.
It's a little oldie.
Because we care a lot about our listeners, I'm going to say that it came in just like 2 days ago because we would never leave one of these hanging on the vine.
Yeah, leave it hanging. I just think it just never really fit into a show, so I just wanted to bring it up here, just read it for you guys, because I think it's a nice little email. It's from Matthew S. I'll leave the last name out, just because. And it's, hi guys. I love your show. I'm a huge fan of indie games, so listening to you guys' podcast and hearing all the indie love and learning about other indie games I may have missed out on is awesome. So I wanted to recommend a few of my favorite indie games I've played in the past few years. In 2020, my favorite indie game was Hunt Down. It's a great arcade-style run and gun, tons of action, and lots of great Easter eggs and hilarious one-liners. Unmetal was my most played game and hands down favorite game of 2021. Mm-hmm. It's a love letter to Metal Gear on the MSX, and it's seriously the funniest game I've ever played. And then he said, so far this year, the winner goes to Super Cyborg. This game is just one giant homage to Contra and mainly Super C from the NES. This game looks, feels, and sounds like it could have been the third game in the series released on the Nintendo. Respectfully, Matthew.
Matthew, thanks for writing in. Thanks for the recommendations. Good job with the call out to Hunt Down. Hunt Down has been on my 2 playlist a little bit. There, and I'm going to maybe out him here, but there is a YouTuber that I watch a lot of, Happy Console Gamer. He recommended Hunt Down. It's a very cyberpunk kind of neo-noir side-scrolling run-and-gun, and it has been on my wish list for a while now since then, and I'm going to have to potentially bump it up in priority because it's getting yet another recommendation. So thank you for the nudge and good picks.
Hunt, I remember when Johnny recommended that because I think that he even stumbled upon it late. I think it was one of those deals where it was a year old already by the time he found it or something. Although it could have really been 2 years ago already, and I've been watching Happy Console Gamer for like half of my life, I feel like. So but yeah, I mean, I remember him talking about it too. And then Unmetal I've also heard of. So awesome recommendations. I can't wait. I'll definitely check some out.
For sure. You seems like you got a vibe, right? Like Unmetal, Hunt Down, I feel like you could lump those into the same funnel in many ways.
Yes.
So you love to see it.
Yeah. And looking at Unmetal's like art, it reminds me of Metal Gear, like an 80s Metal Gear, dude with a bandana and a gun. And actually that is on, I think, Humble Choice right now. So if you have Humble Choice, you have Unmetal. So there you go.
Sweet.
Random. I just noticed that. Okay. But yeah, that was really nice to get an email, and we actually read it. So that's pretty fantastic.
If someone else wants to send us an
Matthew.
email that we will get to in a much more timely fashion, they can reach out to us. How?
Oh, on our email, it's IndieQuestPod@gmail.com. And as long as Twitter exists, we're at IndieQuestPod on Twitter. So I guess it's time for plugs. Where can people find you, Captain Seth?
They can find me at Captain Drachma on Twitter, and of course in the Polymedia Discord, best place on the internet. Steve, where can I find you?
At Blink that's OOM, like Mun Metal. And that's on Twitter and Twitch. Twitch on Tuesday, Thursday, Fridays. Do all sorts of stuff. Retro stuff, indie stuff. Sometimes I just pull up a web page and I talk over it for 3 hours. So, you get a whole big wide variety of stuff over there. Come hang out. And if you want to get a hold of the show, well, actually, we already told you where you can get a hold of the show. If you want to get a hold of any of the other shows on the network, or just want to check them out, go over to polymedianetwork.com. Whole big wide variety of shows for you over there. We got a podcast for every day of the week, I tell you. Why don't we shout some out here? I'm going to shout out. You know what? I'm going to go first. I'm going to jump in. Who do I want to spread a little love to? How about Tales of Lesser Medium? Tales of Lesser Medium, a banger of a show, a belly laugher of a show. Very funny. Go check out Caleb and Trav. They're exploring the stories of many old and only somewhat old video games, telling you a good video game story, making you laugh while they do it. Quite entertaining. Their latest episode I continue to tout as one of their best. It's on Bionic Commando, so go give that a listen.
It's awesome.
Seth, what's one that you're down for?
Well, something that many of our listeners probably also listen to, but if you don't, you should also go check out Drunk Friend. They are currently going through the 90s. I think they are on, the last episode was on 1997. They had Jim from Drink a Beer and Play a Game on there, talked some wrestling and everything 1997. So if you want to hear the tail end of the 90s, and I think they even talked about doing some 2000s, go hop in and check that out. Josh, What's a show that you enjoy? And also, I think maybe Steve skipped over your plug.
Oh, snap.
Oh, my
plug
plug.
yourself, buddy. I thought you already did. Plug yourself
no,
twice
you're good.
so that they definitely remember it.
Plug me twice. At Frantic Society on Twitter. Okay. I'm on Mastodon. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see. The show that I was listening to today and I was enjoying quite a bit is Point and Drink Adventure. We got Pam and Petey together talking all things video games and media, and it's a great time. Alcohol, of course, is involved. And they had an episode together in the same room.
Yep.
And it was really well. I didn't quite finish the episode. I'm on like the tail end of it, but I really have enjoyed what I listened to. I recommend that show a lot. So check it out, Point and Drink Adventure.
For sure.
Well, who wants to take us out today? I want to put Seth on the spot. Take us out today with a nice little message. You brought us in on a good message. Why don't we just lay him to bed? This is the Thanksgiving episode. Thanksgiving's a couple days. Put everybody in that thankful, good mood.
Well, I talked about in the intro how it pays to be a nice and a good person, to kind of pay it forward. And I think that's how we'll leave it today. Tomorrow, as long as this releases on Wednesday, which it basically always does, tomorrow, when everybody listens to this, will be Thanksgiving. So give your loved ones a hug and just be thankful for everything that we have. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Peace.
What's going on, everybody? Oh, let me start over. That was bad. That was
What's
just
going on,
rough.
every guy? How's every guy doing?
All right. I was just trying to jump right into it.